But right now we have to talk about Big 12 expansion. Is it time for the Big 12 to expand? I think it's very interesting that Brett Yormark essentially told you how amazing this show is over the weekend when he talked about the fact that the Big 12 is, quote, open for business. And we're going to get to that in a bit. But we, if you go back on the channel, if you were here last Thursday, we talked about the fact that the Big 12 is for sale. Everything in the Big 12 is for sale. And Brett Yormark confirmed that on Friday, saying that the Big 12 has never been more open for business than it is right now. But very interestingly, Brett Yormark also said that expansion is not on the table currently. And I think that's exactly the right tack to take, because we all know everyone's just waiting for the ACC to come to a resolution, which I am not convinced, by the way, that it will be a meltdown. I'm not convinced that the ACC will no longer exist, a la the Pac-12. And I know that everybody is convinced that the ACC is dying and Florida State is murdering people, and they're not. I think we have no idea what these NIL lawsuits are going to do. I think we have no idea what the long-term unintended consequences of these NIL settlements will be. I don't think there's any doubt that the ACC is likely to get a facelift one way or the other. But I don't think that means that right now, today, the Big 12 should be expanding. And the idea that here we are asking Brett Yormark if the Big 12 is expanding is kind of crazy to me. This league just expanded. You added 4 pretty premium brands in Colorado, Utah, and the Arizona schools on top of the BYU, Houston, UCF, Cincinnati expansion. You've added 8 teams in the last couple of years that have really solidified the future of this league. So, Jake, should we be talking about the Big 12 expanding once again?
Well, I think the problem is that it's always on the table for the Big 12 because of their position in college football. You're obviously not talking about the SEC or the Big 10 constantly expanding because they're the top dogs in the sport. And I think the Big 12 finds itself in a position where it's always having to look at how can we fortify ourselves as much as possible? How can we, consistently be in a position where, the money's good, the brands are good, sponsorship dollars are good. And so Brett Yormark's put in a position where he's going to have to field these questions on a regular basis. And I think you're exactly right. I mean, the ACC situation plays right into, should the Big 12 expand now, or should they be pushing a narrative of, hey, we're not, like right now, like Brett Yormark saying, we're not actively looking for, new expansion members, as he put it. Like, I think they're constantly playing the PR game. And while that might be difficult sometimes, that's the position you're going to continue to be in until you can find a way to garner more power in the sport, more respect in the sport. And it's not to say that, the Big 12 is in some terrible position, because they're not. They're in a pretty good position right now. Obviously adding those schools, the money's pretty solid. Like, you're in a pretty good place right now, but you're not the SEC or the Big 10. And I think that's the hard part. Where is the Big 12 going forward now? Like, what is the mission right now? Because I think ultimately right now for Brett Yormark, the mission is just keep the conference healthy, keep it moving forward, and continue to find ways to grow revenue. That, to me, is Brett Yormark's number one priority right now. Find ways, whether it's in the basketball segment or in the football segment, to continue to bring more revenue into the conference so that member institutions feel really taken care of. Because that's where all the issues stem from in college football. You look at the ACC thing, hey, we're not getting paid enough money. You look at the Pac-12 thing, your grant of rights was expiring and you couldn't come up with a reasonable number with your TV partners to figure something out. And so that's why I say for the Big 12, should they expand right now? No, probably not, because you've just done a bunch of expansion. But I think you're always looking forward. You're always trying to see, hey, what's that next opportunity? Do we have a chance at Duke and UNC? Do we have a chance at, Louisville or Pitt? Like,
yeah,
that's what I think you're looking at.
I think you look at the comment. Brett Yormark declares that he is not searching for new expansion members. And I think a lot of people took that to mean, well, he's not focused on expansion. I don't know that there's any more succinct way to say than Brett Yormark is always looking for expansion candidates. Brett Yormark is always talking to people. And I love that people are like, well, he's going to add Oregon State and Washington State so they can be travel partners. He could have added Oregon State and Washington State months and months ago and did not. And if you're the guy out there in the YouTube comment section over the weekend talking about how Washington State solves all of the Big 12's problems, one, I would probably go to rehab. I'm not making statements about your current intoxication level.
Who the fuck is that guy?
But you high as a kite if you think that Washington State solves all of the Big 12's issues. I think that Brett Yormark is singularly focused on building bridges with ACC members that he values, because that's where he should be exactly focused. I think Brett Yormark is very pragmatic. He is a very practical thinker. Brett Yormark, he could pick up the phone today and add Oregon State and Washington State.
Right.
Simply put, I think we are in a position now where the ACC creates another tipping point, very much like the Pac-12 created a tipping point. Because I think mostly the Big Ten and the Big 12 did not have a desire to expand. I think the Big 12 had just had a huge win with UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, and certainly BYU. That was a huge win, no question about it. There was not an appetite to expand. But are you telling me if the the Four Corners became available to you that you were going to say no?
Right.
You were going to say no to a football brand like Utah? You were going to say no to a basketball brand like Arizona? You were going to say no to a foothold in Florida? You were going to say no to Deion Sanders? Of course you weren't. I mean, yeah, you had to take Bobby Hurley in Arizona State. I mean,
Right. Right.
But all kidding aside, you were never going to say no to that. Are you going to say no to what is likely expansion? Virginia Tech, Pitt, Louisville. Are you going to say no to those guys? Of course not. Those are opportunities for you. I look at Brett Yormark. He is a practical, pragmatic business operator. And I think that is very good news if you are a Big 12 fan. I think right now we are not in a window where the ACC is quickly going to resolve itself. I think that we are slow playing that situation because I don't think there's any doubt we're headed for a Super League. And I can sit here every day on the show and tell you that if you look at what we've talked about, I think 2026 we will is the earliest window you're going to get a Super League, because I think it takes time. I think inside of it takes time, there's a lot of communication, a lot of negotiation, a lot of stuff that's got to get worked out. I think 2026 is a perfect timeline for that. I think we will find in the fall ACC resolution. And I think it very much could be nothing. Mm-hmm. I think it very much could be an exodus of the top 4 teams in that league. I think Duke, Carolina, I believe they are a package deal. I think they know they're a package deal. I think Florida State and Clemson, I think Clemson is incredibly invaluable right now. I just don't think which is incredible, because I don't understand the value of Clemson with Dabo Swinney as the head football coach.
Man, I don't think I don't know the value of any school that has a head football coach that won't embrace portal and NIL. I think that just is, saying that's a death knell is strong, but saying it's a pain in the ass is spot on. I mean, you got to have, and again, maybe this is the other point with the Big 12, right? I mean, you got to have some of these brands start to shift in a more winning way. And I think that whether that's, the usual suspects in the Big 12 we talk about, Baylor, Texas Tech, the usual suspects, you look, and like, I look at this ranking poll, the odds for, who's going to win the Big 12. Like, this is hilarious to me that you have both Kansas schools on top. You've got Arizona, and you have Okie State ahead of schools like Utah. And it's so interesting to me to see this, because I feel like if Arizona and Kansas and K-State are all better than Utah and Oklahoma State, then the Big 12 is in a great place. That's essentially what the Big 12 needs to take that next step forward. You need like 5, 6, 7 teams to be truly good in that conference.
Yeah,
You can't tell me that Arizona is going to be that good.
But understand that this is ESPN's FPI, which I think is incredibly important to understand, that it measures a team's strength based on their schedule and net points versus their opponent. Expected points versus the average opponent played at a neutral site. So there is a lot of conjecture about this. Having Oklahoma State and Utah dead even, that's not surprising. Somebody needs to explain to me what I'm missing with Arizona football, because I don't understand it. And I think if Jed Fish was still there, this would make perfect sense.
God bless your soul, sir.
I've been fighting that for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, but I agree. Yeah, if Jed Fish was still there,
but he's not.
Yeah, like
he's not. And I'm not trying to tell you that, this is complete garbage. I don't think it's complete garbage. I think it is what we do in the middle of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think this is. The idea that Kansas and K-State in an FPI are favored to win the conference is shocking. But is it really when it's a metric-based, not real-world-based formula? It's not.
Yeah, and I think that, looking at that list, I hope for the Big 12's sake that something similar to this comes to fruition, where you've got Kansas, K-State, Oklahoma State, Utah, and let's call it Texas Tech, battling for the top 3 spots in the conference, battling for college football playoff spots. That would be phenomenal for the conference. And when you look at whether they should be expanding or not, that's what they need to make their conference more attractive.
But look at Kansas's schedule.
Yeah.
Look at Kansas's schedule. And I know Lindenwood is I don't know shit about Lindenwood because you've never heard of him either. At Illinois, UNLV, at West Virginia, TCU, at Arizona State, Houston, at K-State, Iowa State, at BYU, Colorado, at Baylor. That's one of the easiest schedules in the entire conference, maybe in the country. You've got some answers at Illinois. That's an interesting game. At West Virginia, at Arizona State's a win. At K-State should be a win. At BYU should be a win, even though I think that's going to be a tougher game. And at Baylor should be a win. Like I think I could make the argument you should go undefeated on the road. You don't have a tough road game. Your worst, or your most difficult game is Iowa State, and that's in Lawrence. So are we really that surprised to see odds to win the conference with Kansas on top based on strength of schedule? Yeah. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah.
That's that. I wouldn't get that excited about it. And I'm not saying that Kansas is bad. All I'm saying is Kansas has an easy schedule.
Right.
And then I look at somebody, well, what's not on their schedule? Well, Utah's not on their schedule. When does Kansas play Oak State? Oh, wait, they don't play them either. So your schedule's a walk in the park.
They don't have Tech either, correct?
It's a walk in the park.
Yeah.
It is what I'm saying.
Not going to Tortilla Land.
That's why I just feel like we tend to read far too much into this. And if I look at Oak State's schedule, their schedule's not difficult. And again, I just say take all the excuses away from Mike Gundy.
Well, Monty the Mullet.
South Dakota State, Arkansas, at Tulsa.
3-0.
Utah, at K-State, West Virginia. Probably 5-1.
Yeah.
At BYU, at Baylor, at Arizona State. 8-1. at TCU, Texas Tech, at Colorado. I think you're probably 10-2.
Yeah.
And if you're not, Mike Gundy should be fired. If you don't win 10 games this year, and I'm sure Oak State James is probably pissing himself in frustration right now. But I'm telling you, if they don't win 10 games this year, there's no defense of Mike Gundy. Shut your goddamn trap and do not come in here and defend. Well, Monty, no, well, Monty. I don't want to hear, well, Monty, extra lice in the mullet.
Monty, listen, Bucky's
Don't want to hear it.
Short on their barbecue sandos this season.
Don't want to hear it.
You know, the mullet wasn't growing as much because he was hungry.
Don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it.
Well, Monty, Ollie Gordon got hurt. What do you want us to do?
You know. Oak State James. Lance Leipold at KU. Well, he's at KU.
Thank you.
Chris Kleiman at K-State. Well, thank you. I thought he was actually.
I love the assertion that we don't know who these people are, dude.
Why is Mike Gundy in this conversation? Anyway, I thought we were talking about teams with good coaches. And
apologize to that man.
Big Daddy Magic, if Kansas played Utah, they'd get their ass kicked. I seriously doubt that. Dakota Tubbs, Monty, Kansas doesn't play in Lawrence this year. That's right. Correct. Thank you. That's correct. They play. I'm sorry. They can't play at Arrowhead because, you know, their stadium is getting renovated with taxpayer dollars. Oh, wait, it's not. It's not.
Wait. This isn't no, I'm not gonna do it. Go ahead.
What?
Next comment.
What? I mean, well, the Royals and the Chiefs were voted to have new stadiums
And
by
stuff.
the taxpayers.
Monty.
Head to the other side of the line, the other Kansas City.
I knew today would be shitty.
Okay. You know, Mike Smith talking about teams being added, not teams already there. Okay. Yeah. You know, Dev MC, Okie Light and BYU game scares me. 9 p.m. kickoff on a Friday night.
Well, the only thing I would say about Okie Light's schedule,
Hey, it's Oak State.
you know, gutted Steers schedule.
Gutted
If you look at the end of their schedule, yeah, that TCU, Texas Tech, Colorado run there at the end there, that's tough because
Look,
you're at the end of your year.
Deion's kid is bankrupt. He's not winning nothing.
Listen, NIL is a real problem.
Yeah.
Victimhood.
Security guards and stuff.
Car getting repoed.
I think Oklahoma State has, again, I think Oklahoma State has a very easy schedule. I think that I look at Utah's schedule. Their cupcake is Southern Utah. Then they go Baylor at Utah State, at Oklahoma State. Arizona, you know, the fucking world beaters in Tucson, Arizona, at Arizona State, TCU at Houston, BYU at Colorado, Iowa State at UCF.
Should be a 10-win schedule. Like, it just should be. Like,
okay, Southern Utah, Baylor, Utah State, Oklahoma State, win or loss for Utah. I don't know. Is Cam Rising healthy?
Okay, let's be generous.
Okay,
and say
wait.
they
Leave
lose to
Oak State out. Leave Oak State out. 3-0. Arizona 4, Arizona State 5, TCU at Rice Eccles 6, at Houston 7, BYU 8, Colorado at Colorado 9.
Yeah.
Iowa State, UCF on the road. I think this could be, they should win 10 games.
Yeah.
But going to the bounce house in November, I think they have some very difficult games. Iowa State coming to Rice Eccles. Like, this is what I'm saying. Oak State doesn't have that difficult of a schedule. Kansas doesn't have that difficult of a schedule.
I do think, in all seriousness, if Cam Rising stays healthy and if that defense stays healthy, this could be like perfect world, perfect schedule, right? Like, they could win all these games. They're in every one of these games, 100%. I think,
agree.
I think real world, you're probably, 11-1. I would say is probably realistic. I think that Again, if you're healthy in the last quarter of your season, I think you can go 11-1 at Utah. I really do.
Look at Texas Tech's schedule.
Yeah.
Abilene Christian, at Washington State, North Texas, Arizona State, Cincinnati, at Arizona, Baylor.
See, like,
there are no excuses to get to Halloween undefeated because then you go to TCU. You should be at Halloween. You should be undefeated.
But come on, dude. 2 weeks into the season, you're going to Washington State. Tell me that's not a risk game.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're Texas Tech.
Well, I agree with that, but they haven't proven that they can get it done yet. Like, I'm not making excuses. I'm saying I see Washington State as a road game, and I'm like, yeah, dude, that's kind of sketch for Texas Tech.
If you roll, but they've lost everybody. That's a win.
Yeah.
If you roll into Ames and you are not undefeated, Joey McGuire shouldn't be the coach. I mean, that's got to be the easiest first 2 months in the Big 12. It just has to be. And you look at now, I'm not saying that they're going to have an easy road down the stretch because they go at Iowa State, Colorado, at Oak State, West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough 4 games to end. But you look at Iowa State's schedule. You want to talk about a schedule. North Dakota at Iowa. So your rival is week 2, but Iowa doesn't have offense. They don't have any offensive scholarships. So Iowa, I don't believe will run an offensive play. Depends on if you consider punting and kicking offense, but okay. Arkansas State, at Houston, Baylor, at West Virginia, UCF, Texas Tech, at Kansas. How about that stretch? UCF, Texas Tech, at Kansas, Cincinnati, at Utah, K-State.
Yeah, you're losing the last 2 games of the year, dude. I'm sorry.
We'll see. I don't know. They're very good, but that's a difficult schedule as well. And then I look at BYU's schedule. Southern Illinois at SMU. SMU's going undefeated this year.
Texas, money.
Yeah, SMU, Dallas County, undefeated.
The pro rata we bought.
Then BYU goes to Laramie. Good luck. K-State, at Baylor, Arizona, Oak State, and then look at this stretch. At UCF, at Utah, Kansas, at Arizona State, Houston. That 3 games, really 4 game stretch. And if you count Arizona, 5 game stretch, Arizona, Oak State at home, both of those, at UCF, at Utah, and Kansas.
Yeah.
Who hates the Mormons? Oh, the person that writes the schedule hates the Mormons. Are you kidding me? How difficult that is. Like, that's impossible. So I just win 8 games, Kalani. That's it. Hey, Kalani.
Hey, Monty.
Just win 8 games.
Yeah.
But I think Utah and Oak State at the end of the day are the 2 best teams in the conference.
Both should be college football playoff teams. Absolutely.
And the thing that I need to know is, what am I missing? What am I missing about Arizona? Because I like to consider myself up to date, and I don't understand what it is that. And listen, again, I get it. Noah Fafita, the Fighting Fafitas, as I coined them last year.
Yes,
but we'll see, man. We'll see what Arizona turns out to be.
Maybe they shock the world.
I don't
know
about that.
Yeah.
So
should the Big 12 expand? I don't know. Will the Mullet live up to it? Will Cam Rising stay healthy? Will Texas Tech and the Kansas schools live up to it? If they live up to it and those other things happen, I don't think the Big 12 needs to worry about expansion right now.
And I will continue to tell you, the 2 most important brands in this league right now are Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. And I don't know. I certainly do not believe that my thoughts on Mike Gundy are well documented. I have more questions about Joey McGuire than I do Mike Gundy.
And that's justified. I mean, with all jokes aside about Gundy, like obviously he's a cut above Joey McGuire. He just is. And I think that Oklahoma State is, you should have a good year, and that's why we're so black and white with the mullet, because there's no excuses at all, even a little.
And you look at Chrome Dome down in Waco.
I don't know what they're doing there. I mean, I legit don't know what to think of that. Is 6 wins enough?
What is it going to take to get fired in like 8 Ball down in Waco? Like, what's it going to take? What's it going to take for 8 Ball Aranda to get fired down in Waco?
8 Ball Aranda.
Somebody needs to explain to me what Mr. Clean's going to have to do, because I don't get it. I truly do not understand what it is going to take to get him fired.
I think at this point, the only thing that's going to get Buddy fired would be Northwestern level drama, Northwestern level issues.
Bro, you're 3-9.
Yeah, you're Garbo, dude.
You're going to lose to Tarleton State, at Utah Air Force, at Colorado, BYU, at Iowa State, at Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, TCU, at West Virginia. Just put your balls on the ground and let everybody stomp on them.
Yummy, yummy, yummy.
You've got at Iowa State, at Texas Tech, Okie Light, TCU, at West Virginia. You should. Well, you're going to lose to Houston.
Yes.
And then you're going to lose to Kansas to end the season.
Yes.
If they lose their last 7 games.
How does he survive that?
And because I think that they might win the Tarleton game. That's a cash game.
Dave?
8 Ball.
Dude, wow, Monty, our defensive line didn't show up that day, so we lost the game 41-40.
All right, we're 1-64, but Dave Aranda's getting a contract extension.
Yes.
We have so much confidence in the fact that he uses clear coat on his bald head and the sweat patterns. I mean, have you seen the way Dave Aranda sweats through a visor? Who else are we going to get to do it at that level?
Wait, is Dave a visor guy?
I think he is. Pretty sure.
Okay, I need to verify this now.
I mean,
God, that would be so fitting.
What do you do? Well, and I'm being serious. You were 2-7 last year in conference, 3-9. Somebody explain to me what you have to do to get fired at Baylor. Because I don't. The answer is I don't know.
Even more fitting. Dave is a no hat guy. He doesn't do hats or visors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you seen the tan line from his headset,
bro?
Boy, all headset, no cattle.
100%.
When you are losing your hair, you can make fun of those that have lost all their hair. It's an unwritten rule. I don't want to talk about it. Dakota Tubbs, I can't think of a worse thing than losing to KU to end your season. Well, that's why you guys evacuated the Big 12, so you wouldn't lose to. Okay. Steve Stepanek, Kansas State will be in the championship game. Okay,
man.
Okay. Midweek Coug, Tech is overrated. What have they done since Leach left? Made excuses?
Yeah.
Let kids out of the Connex box. It was
a joke.
Was insane.
Relax.
I have a dark heart.
Relax.
It was insane. Come on, let kids out of the Connex box.
I never locked those kids in the Connex box.
They put themselves in there.
They were getting the left-handed footballs, and apparently the door locked them in.
How good is Mike Leach? Wow. Tech was riddled with injuries. Nobody else was? So Texas Tech was the only team that had quarterback.
Joey McGuire has some leniency? What?
Texas Tech was. I love oh man, that Monty. Have you seen that bruise on his labia? Like, do you know the palpitations that were caused by that hematoma?
I think I've hit it every time.
Everybody has injuries. Everybody has injuries. It's not an excuse. It just isn't.
No, you're playing football, dude. There's gonna be injuries.
If you don't have three, and I'm not expecting people to be Texas deep, but if you don't have three quarterbacks ready to step up and play, what are you doing? Can you say that you're prepared if you do not have three quarterbacks prepared to be the number one?
No.
Not in today's world, you can't. It just doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. But, UW fan Jim, Baylor will be this year's West Virginia. So Joey needs fired? Is that what you're saying? Baylor couldn't beat a high school team.
Well, guess they're going to get that chance against Tarleton, man.
Tarleton. Do you even know where Tarleton is?
Bro.
In Tarleton.
Yeah.
What's the question? Tarleton State is not a laydown.
Uh-huh.
Are they going to beat? No, they're probably not. But are they a rollover? No. I mean, Tarleton is 8-3 last year in the UAC. They play you've got Baylor. You want to talk about a schedule. Tarleton's got McNeese and is that Houston Christian? Houston Christian, the Huskies.
Wow.
The mighty Huskies of
Dude.
Houston Christian.
Yes.
And then don't forget Utah Tech in Abilene. Abilene.
Right.
I don't know what it'll take for Dave Aranda to get whacked. I'm not convinced. But anyway, all of this to say, the Big 12, I don't believe is expanding until the ACC melts down. But hey, you know what? Stranger things have happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the ACC thing is the only other factor that would affect expansion for any conference right now. I mean, if you're look around, there's nothing else really happening that would encourage any of these conferences, let alone the Big 12, to add more teams. Nobody, as we've said for months now, nobody wants to go to 20 teams right now, man. It's too much. It's too big. It's too heavy from a revenue standpoint. So you wind up just sitting here waiting and being on pause with expansion.
I don't believe, and this is just my opinion, I don't believe that the first conference that gets to plus 20 teams, that's just so much more difficult logistically. It really is, in my opinion. It's just such a monster. I don't even know how you. Yeah, good luck with that. I don't know how you put that together.
You don't.
But it will be very challenging, in my opinion. But hey, we'll see. I look at a lot of what the future of college football holds. And I don't know that we ever get to 30-team conferences because the Super League is going to change the way we do business. So I think the Super League is very different than a 25-team conference.
Right.
That's just.
It is, yeah. And I think that the Super League changes the way money flows through the sport, and I think that's what you have to consider. And that's, again, bringing it back to the question of, hey, should the Big 12 expand or not? No, probably not at this time. It's probably not a good time to be expanding or changing the dynamic of your conference. But I do think, and we'll keep saying it, Brett Yormark is someone who is always having conversations, is always networking, is always looking to connect and form relationships with people, because you never know who you're going to need when that time comes. I mean, it's again, it's like when he needed to get to Mark Harlan and Taylor Randall and the folks at Utah. Well, what did he do? Well, he went to his guy in Provo, right? I mean, it makes perfect sense. Like when you need to get to the Arizona schools, but you don't have a great relationship with them. I mean, obviously he can call anybody. He can call Michael Crow at ASU, but that doesn't mean that you're going to have a productive conversation. It's better when you get introduced and it's like, hey, this is him and this is, let's talk. Like that's better. So yeah,
Hey,
I mean,
this is him. Let's talk. That's better.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, that is
when you're introduced, that's better than just calling someone out of the blue.
I would agree with that.
Like,
I mean, I think, it's all about relationships. Steve